Shane Vereen, great to see you, man, making your season debut. And we should lead things off by just pulling that curtain back a little bit for the listeners and let them know what we were chatting about just moments before we started recording. Two really key things. The craziness of hotel rooms in Vegas around both F1 and the Super Bowl, which is terrifying Ollie, obviously, because we're going to blow our entire season's budget on one night in a hotel room. And your golf handicap, of course. Those are the two most pressing things we were talking about.
Absolutely. And none of them are good. Let's just put it to you that way.
Yeah. If we're looking at in thousands, the price of a hotel room for one night in Vegas at the Super Bowl, average price versus Shane Vereen's golf handicap right now. I wonder if it's got 11, 12.
Pretty much the same.
Pretty similar, isn't it? Man, great to see you. There's a ton to get into. We're going to have a lot of fun today because we've got a brand new feature for the show, which we're dropping called 57 Seconds. And you are going to be the very first lucky in the lucky hot seat for 57 seconds, where we're going to fire a whole load of questions at you, rapid fire. See how many get right in 57 seconds. I'm looking forward to that. We got our picks contest as well. I'm really excited about that because after week one, Shane Vereen, 11 wins for little old me. And all I care about is beating Ollie, and I'm already two games up on Ollie. So it's been a strong start. So even at this crazy early stage, we're going to pick week 2 games. That's going to be interesting. And then of course, we're going to look ahead at some of those games in a little bit more detail. But first things first, we've obviously got to lead off with the Aaron Rodgers news. It was extraordinary, heartbreaking. So many questions rattling through my head. First of all, what does this do for Aaron Rodgers' career in the sense that, forget this season, the Jets, the high hopes, everything else. Is there a very real chance that we might never see Aaron Rodgers play the game again?
I think that there's a very, very real chance that we've seen the last of Aaron Rodgers. I hope not, selfishly, but an Achilles is no easy feat to come back from, especially at the age of 39. And as superhuman as Aaron Rodgers seems, and the way he plays the game, and 4-time NFL MVP, at the end of the day, he is human. At the end of the day, he still has to recover just like the rest of us. Granted, I do believe the fire will still be there. But
do you think even more so? You know how like a heavyweight fighter goes down in the first round and does not want to go out like that, will have a comeback fight because I'm not going out like that. Do you think that's how Rodgers will be viewing this?
I hope so. I really do, because I do think he still has a few years left to play. I think he can play up until 42 if he wanted to. So I really hope that he comes back, because I would love to see him on this Jets team. I would love just to see him selfishly still in the NFL, regardless of what team he plays for. He's just that spectacular to me. And I know him personally, and so that adds to it as well. So I just, my heart goes out to him. Prayers are up for him for a quick and an easy recovery, as easy as it can be. But that type of injury, the Achilles, although it's become more common, and so because it becomes more common, the therapy and the surgeries become more routine for doctors, and there's been advances in that, but that's still one of the toughest injuries, especially in the game of football, to come back from.
And I guess not particularly for a quarterback, but given, how significant an injury that is, just in terms of planting your foot and in terms of the key mechanics of a quarterback, that's something to bear in mind. You mentioned you know him personally. I don't expect you to open the book on too much, but I am curious because he is one of the most enigmatic figures in the game, right? That's fair to say. He's a brilliant player. Yeah. He's obviously quite left field in a lot of his views and the way he handles himself. Do you think he's maybe, generationally speaking, one of the most misunderstood players of his time in terms of how the wider fan base perceives Aaron Rodgers?
I would say so, absolutely. Because when you talk to him and you meet him in person, he is the nicest, kindest, one of the most competitive people to be around. And he kind of draws you in. He's funny. He's low key. He's very, very laid back. And I think he gets kind of like this bad rap about him for whatever reason. I don't know what bear he poked. I don't know why the media tries to spin his personal life a certain way. I don't know why people care about his personal life so much that
Right.
it's made him an enigma in a sense, right? Like when it's the offseason, do what you want to do. Like why do we need to deep dive Aaron Rodgers' personal life? I've never understood that. And so I know him from the sense of we trained together for multiple off seasons out in California. He was at Cal, my college, before I was there, but we kind of had that relationship, that bond, and so we played against each other on the field. And so I just have an immense respect for who he is as a person, immense respect for who he is as a player, as a quarterback, but more importantly, immense respect for who he is as a leader.
You know, even now, we're in the year 2023, and so much has changed. I for the better, I think progressively. There's still a long way to go, I think, with a lot of sentiment. But generally speaking, things in many ways, in terms of mindsets and acceptance, and I guess a wider public consciousness, it has progressed. Yet those people that are a little bit different, a little bit left field, particularly in football, I still can see a slight suspicion around him. It's like when Trevor Lawrence came out and he was doing the interview rounds. I always remember this, and there was a concern about him because he said he was interested in things other than football, as though that was somehow like a major issue against him. It's just madness. One thing on the injury, man, that I wanted to get your take on as an athlete. A number of players came out. Bakhtiari, of course, his former teammate, most notably, criticizing artificial turf, right, and saying that why is the NFL so backwards here, and we're going to have the World Cup, which is going to be entirely on grass, and that is going to change this up. And yet here we are, multi-million-dollar athletes, left, right, and center, still playing in this way and risking injury. Where are you on that? Are you firmly in the Bakhtiari camp that this has got to change?
It should have changed years ago, in my opinion. It should have changed right after AstroTurf. They got rid of AstroTurf. 99.9% of players are going to say that they would rather play on grass. We practice on grass. Why if we're going to play on turf, right? Why aren't we practicing on turf? We practice on grass. We never practice on turf unless it's a walkthrough or unless it's a quick practice, because turf beats up the joints. It's faster than grass. The top speed is faster on grass, but for what you get in that sense, what it does to your body at the end of the game, it's not worth it. Grass is so much better. It gives. It's more receptive to your cleats. Your cleats can dig in. Your cleats don't get stuck. And especially on new turf, which MetLife, they just put in new turf this offseason because there were so many complaints about the previous years and all the injuries that happened on that specific turf. It would be one thing if the NFL stadiums were buying the top of the line turf, top of the line synthetic grass, top of the line synthetic rubber, but they're not. They are not buying the best turf even. And the reason why they went to turf in the first place is because it's cheaper for the owners, it's cheaper for the stadiums, because there's less maintenance that has to go on with it. That's the whole reason behind it. You just have to follow the money. But even to make it even worse, if you're an owner, you have the product that's making you millions and millions of dollars a year. You're paying these players millions and millions of dollars a year. You should want to invest to keep them healthy, right? That you want to protect your investment. That makes complete sense. So even if you're going to go turf, at least buy the best turf that in the world, the best turf that mankind has ever created. And they're not even doing that. So I don't think that Aaron Rodgers' injury had anything to do with the playing surface. However, players have been screaming at the top of their lungs for 10 plus years now about playing on turf and how dangerous playing on turf is and how much we would rather play on grass. And you just look at there's not one NFL team that practices on turf. Not one. Every NFL team practices on grass. So you do the math yourself. Clearly, they're trying to save us during the week and allowing us to practice on grass, right? Because it's better. But then when we go to game time, we go into the stadiums and it's turf, and there go your injuries.
It's crazy, isn't it? When you put it in those terms, it's absolutely fascinating. And also, it really counterintuitive when you think about whatever criticisms you want to levy at most NFL ownership of one kind or another, to varying degrees as well. Let's be honest. There is It's smart poker, right? You look at other sporting leagues and institutions around the world. The NFL are the gold standard in egalitarian. Let's protect each other. Let's be smart about this. Let's protect the product, right? Because we're all going to make money out of it. That's the reason for doing it. But they make smart decisions. And then you see this and you think, to your point, that's totally illogical that you're putting this product at risk. Or is it because most of the time they think because they're mercenary owners or can be, in the sense of they're business people, right? And so they're just out there to make a lot of money, first and foremost. I think most players are interchangeable, right? And that's their view on it. But then when it's a superstar, when it happens to Aaron Rodgers, it happens to RG3, it happens when the superstars get hurt, will that change their mind? Will that force the issue, do you think?
The unfortunate part is I think it's going to take an unimaginable amount of superstars to get injured in the same season or within like 2 years for them to really sit back and be like, okay, now we're hurting our bottom line. Too many quarterbacks have gotten hurt. We're hurting our bottom line because of the surface. I think a lot of it also, a majority of the NFL teams are centered around the East Coast, in which weather in the wintertime plays a portion. So as fields get beat up, as the weather and snow and rain starts to beat up the field, visually, from a viewer standpoint, the field doesn't look as pretty or as perfect. Turf,
right?
It always looks the same. It always looks good. So I think from a visual standpoint, from a maintenance standpoint, that's why turf is widely used. Now there are still some stadiums that have grass, and let me tell you, players love playing there, even if it's not your home stadium. Like you love playing on grass. So I hope that it doesn't have to come down to more players getting injured before they make a change. But like I said, this has been a topic of conversation within locker rooms, within the NFL, not necessarily publicly, but these have been conversations within the NFL that have been going on for 10 plus years since turf became the go-to. And let me just tell you, you practice sometimes when I was with New England, for example, we would practice in our bubble only the weeks when we would play in Miami, because then they would crank the heat up in the bubble so that we could get ready, especially late in the year, we could get ready to go down and play in the heat. There's certain teams that might go inside if it's torrential downpour and the forecast for Sunday is sunny skies. So you're going to practice inside because you want a clean practice. But let me tell you, just being on that turf for 2 hours in practice versus on grass for 2 hours of practice, your feet, your knees, your ankles feel completely different. Your lower back, there's no give in turf, and you're just pounding those joints, pounding those muscles, and heaven forbid a cleat gets stuck. So, and that's when the real injuries happen. The problem with turf also is that it's not necessarily injuries from contact. It's the non-contact injuries. Those are the worst ones. And you get a lot more of those non-contact injuries on turf than you do on grass.
Those innocuous ones when your toe gets jammed, something gets jammed and you twist something. It's absolutely fascinating to hear.
Exactly.
And when you were describing that as well, and painting the picture of, we're going to play here and it's normally, very hot temperature that we're not used to, so we're going to change things up. And you start talking about torrential rain. I just got this vision of Coughlin or Belichick just bringing out some kind of Hollywood rain sprinkler system, just drenching you. Get the hoses out, the jets out, and fire you with those.